I said goodbye to my dying wife and walked out of the hospital, then I heard the nurses talking. The words hit me like a physical blow as I stood frozen in the hallway of St. Mary's Medical Center in downtown Chicago. My wife Rebecca lay dying just 20 feet behind me, her body ravaged by a rare blood disorder that was slowly stealing her away, breath by breath. I had just kissed her forehead, whispered "I love you" one more time, and stepped into the corridor because I couldn't watch her fade anymore. The autumn wind rattled the hospital windows, carrying the scent of dying leaves from Lincoln Park. Outside, families were probably carving pumpkins and planning Halloween costumes. Normal people living normal lives. But nothing felt normal anymore. My world had shrunk to this sterile hallway and the sound of machines keeping my wife alive. Rebecca used to light up every room she entered. She was a kindergarten teacher at Riverside Elementary, the kind of woman who remembered every student's birthday and kept a jar of animal crackers on her desk for the shy kids who needed encouragement. She had this laugh, bright and infectious, that could pull me out of any dark mood. When she smiled, her green eyes would crinkle at the corners, and I'd fall in love with her all over again. We'd been married for 8 years, together for 12. High school sweethearts who met at a Cubs game when we were 16. She was wearing a jersey that was 3 sizes too big and eating cotton candy, and I was completely smitten. We talked about everything that day, our dreams, our fears, how we both wanted to travel to Ireland someday to see where her grandmother was born. 6 months ago, everything changed. It started with fatigue. Rebecca would come home from school exhausted, barely able to make it through dinner before falling asleep on our couch. Then came the bruises, dark purple marks that appeared without explanation. The night sweats. The shortness of breath. The diagnosis came like a sledgehammer, aplastic anemia. Her bone marrow was failing, no longer producing the blood cells her body needed to survive. Without a stem cell transplant, the doctors gave her months, maybe less. She needs a family donor, Dr. Martinez had explained, his voice gentle but firm. A sibling would be ideal, but parents or children can sometimes match too. That's when I had to deliver the crushing news. Rebecca was an only child. Her parents had died in a car accident 5 years ago. We tried for years to have children, spending our savings on fertility treatments that never worked. She had no family left except me, and I wasn't a match. "We'll put her on the National Registry," Dr. Martinez said, but his eyes told a different story. The wait could be months or years. Rebecca didn't have that kind of time. For weeks, I'd watched my vibrant, beautiful wife grow paler and weaker. I held her hand through countless blood transfusions and told her everything would be okay, but we both knew I was lying. Now, standing in this hallway after saying what might be my final goodbye, I felt completely hollowed out. That's when I heard 2 nurses talking near the elevator, their voices carrying in the quiet corridor. "You know that patient in 314, Rebecca Chen, she looks exactly like my cousin Emma who lives up in Rockford." My heart stopped beating for what felt like a full minute. Rebecca Chen. Room 314. That was my wife they were talking about. "I'm telling you, Linda, it's uncanny," the first nurse continued. "Same bone structure, same eyes, even the same smile. Emma Rodriguez lives up in Rockford with her family. I swear they could be sisters." Sisters. The word echoed in my mind like a prayer. I knew Rebecca's story by heart. She'd been adopted as an infant by the Chen family, David and Margaret Chen, who'd raised her with all the love in the world but never had much information about her birth parents. Rebecca had occasionally wondered about her biological family, but she'd never seriously pursued it. "The Chens are my real parents," she'd always said. "They chose me. That's what matters." But now, choice didn't matter. Blood did. I waited until the nurses disappeared around the corner, then approached the one who'd mentioned her cousin. Her name tag read Janet Morrison, RN. "Excuse me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I couldn't help but overhear. "You mentioned someone who looks like my wife, Rebecca Chen in 314? Janet's expression softened immediately. "Oh honey, you're Rebecca's husband. I'm so sorry about what you're both going through." She glanced around, then lowered her voice. "I probably shouldn't have been talking about patients, but the resemblance really is remarkable. My cousin Emma Rodriguez, she lives up in Rockford. She's got 3 kids and works at the community center there. Do you think?" I swallowed hard. "Do you think they could be related?" Janet studied my face, seeing the desperate hope I was trying to hide. "I don't know, sweetheart, but if there's any chance. Emma's a good person. She'd want to help if she could." That night, I sat by Rebecca's bedside as she slept fitfully, machines beeping softly around us. Her breathing was more labored now, her skin almost translucent in the dim light. I held her thin hand and whispered, "I'm going to find them, Becca. I'm going to find your family." The next morning, I called in sick to my job at the architectural firm and made the 2-hour drive north to Rockford. The October landscape blurred past my windshield, cornfields stripped bare, farmhouses with wraparound porches, the kind of small-town America that Rebecca had always loved. Rockford was larger than I'd expected, with tree-lined neighborhoods and a charming downtown area. I drove slowly through the residential streets, looking for the community center Janet had mentioned. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel, my heart racing with a mixture of hope and terror. What if this Emma Rodriguez was just a coincidence? What if she wasn't related to Rebecca at all? What if she was related but wasn't a match? What if she was a match but wouldn't agree to help a stranger? I found the Rockford Community Center on Elm Street, a low brick building with children's artwork displayed in the windows. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, working up the courage to go inside. This was either going to save my wife's life or break what was left of my heart. Finally, I opened the car door and walked toward what I hoped would be a miracle. The community center smelled like crayons and apple juice, with children's laughter echoing from somewhere down the hall. I approached the front desk where a middle-aged woman with kind eyes was sorting through paperwork. "Excuse me," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "I'm looking for Emma Rodriguez. I was told she works here." "Emma's in the art room with the after-school program," the woman replied. "Down the hall, last door on the right. Is she expecting you?" "No, but it's important. Family related." The woman's expression grew concerned, but she nodded toward the hallway. I walked slowly down the corridor, my footsteps echoing off the polished linoleum. Through the open doorway, I could see a woman with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, helping a group of children with a craft project. When she looked up and smiled at one of the kids, my breath caught in my throat. Janet had been right. The resemblance was uncanny. Emma Rodriguez had the same delicate bone structure as Rebecca, the same shaped eyes, even the same way of tilting her head when she was concentrating. She was older, maybe mid-30s, with laugh lines around her eyes and paint stains on her sweater, but the similarity was undeniable. "Mrs. Rodriguez?" I called softly from the doorway. She looked up, and for a moment, her expression was puzzled but friendly. "Yes? Can I help you?" "I'm Elena Martinez," I said, using my maiden name instinctively. "Could I speak with you privately? It's about family." Something in my tone must have alarmed her because she quickly asked one of the other volunteers to watch the children and stepped into the hallway with me. "Is someone hurt? Is it about my mother?" she asked anxiously. No, nothing like that," I said quickly. "This is going to sound strange, but do you know if you were adopted? Or if your parents had any other children?" Emma's face went very still. "Why are you asking me that?" I pulled out my phone and showed her a picture of Rebecca, one taken just a few months ago, before she got sick, when her cheeks still had color and her smile still reached her eyes. Emma stared at the screen for a long moment, her face going pale. "Who is this?" "Her name is Rebecca Chun. She's my wife, and she's dying." The words came out in a rush. "She needs a bone marrow transplant, and she has no family. But one of the nurses at the hospital said you look exactly like her," and I thought, I hoped. "Oh my God," Emma whispered, sinking against the wall. "She looks just like my sister Maria did when we were younger." "Your sister?" "I have 2 sisters," Emma said, her voice barely audible. "Had. Maria died in a car accident 10 years ago, but when she was in her 20s, she looked exactly like this woman. And there was another sister, the youngest. She was put up for adoption when she was a baby. Our mother couldn't handle 3 kids on her own." My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. "Do you remember her name? The baby?" Emma closed her eyes, thinking. "Isabella." Her name was Isabella Rodriguez, but they said the adoptive family would probably change it. "Isabella." Rebecca's middle name was Isabella Chun. "Emma," I said, gripping her arm gently, "I think Rebecca might be your sister." And if she is, you might be able to save her life. Emma stared at me, then at the photo again. This is insane. This kind of thing doesn't happen in real life. It's happening right now, I said urgently. Look, I know this is overwhelming, but Rebecca is running out of time. If there's any chance you're related, would you be willing to get tested? Just to see if you're a match. Emma looked back toward the art room where children's voices were still chattering away. I need to call my husband. And my mother, she lives in Aurora. She would know for sure about the adoption details. Can you call them now? Please? She nodded, pulling out her phone with shaking hands. David? Honey, something incredible has happened. I need you to pick up the kids from the center today. She paused, listening. I can't explain over the phone, but a woman came to see me about Isabella, about the baby sister we lost track of. She might have found her. While Emma made arrangements to leave work early, I called Dr. Martinez at the hospital. Doctor, I think I may have found Rebecca's sister. Can we get her tested immediately? Elena, are you sure about this? False hope could be devastating right now. I'm not sure about anything except that my wife is dying and this woman looks exactly like her. We have to try. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, Emma was in the passenger seat of my car as we drove back to Chicago. She called her mother, who'd broken down in tears and confirmed every detail. The baby girl born in 1992, the difficult decision to place her for adoption through Catholic Charities, the name Isabella Rodriguez. Mom kept a baby blanket, Emma said quietly as we passed the cornfields. She never could bring herself to throw it away. She said Isabella had the most beautiful green eyes. Green eyes. Just like Rebecca's. Emma's phone rang constantly during the drive, her husband David calling with support, her mother wanting updates, her older sister Carla driving down from Milwaukee after hearing the news. What if I'm not a match? Emma asked as we entered the Chicago city limits. Then we keep looking, I said, though my voice lacked conviction. We both knew Rebecca didn't have time for extended searches. At the hospital, Dr. Martinez met us in the lobby. Mrs. Rodriguez, thank you for coming. We'll get your blood drawn immediately for tissue typing. The results should be ready by tomorrow morning. As Emma filled out paperwork, I slipped away to Rebecca's room. She was awake, staring out the window at the darkening sky. Elena, she whispered when she saw me. You look different. Like you have a secret. I sat beside her bed and took her hand. Maybe I do. Rebecca, what if I told you that you might have a sister? A sister who wants to help you. Her eyes filled with tears. I'd say you're an angel sent to give me hope when I need it most. Well then, I said, kissing her forehead, get ready to meet your miracle. The next morning felt like the longest day of my life. Emma had stayed overnight in a hotel near the hospital, and we met in the cafeteria at 7 a.m., both of us too nervous to eat the eggs and toast we'd ordered. I barely slept, Emma admitted, stirring her coffee absently. I kept thinking about all the years Rebecca, was out there, and we never knew. She's thought about you too, I said. Maybe not specifically, but she's always wondered about her birth family. She used to say she felt like there was a piece of herself missing. At 9 o'clock, Dr. Martinez called us into his office. Emma gripped my hand as we sat down, both of us holding our breath. Well, he said, looking at the test results, I have some extraordinary news. Emma, you are indeed a match for Rebecca. Not just a good match, you're what we call a perfect match. The tissue compatibility is remarkable. Emma started crying immediately. So I can help her? I can really help her. More than help her, Dr. Martinez said with a smile. You can save her life. This kind of match between siblings is exactly what we hope for in cases like this. The relief that flooded through me was so intense I thought I might faint. After months of watching Rebecca fade away, after all the sleepless nights and desperate prayers, we finally had an answer. When can we do the procedure? Emma asked, wiping her tears. We'll need to do some additional health screenings for you first, but assuming everything checks out, we can schedule the transplant for next week. Rebecca will need to undergo some preparatory treatment to ready her body for the new cells. Emma nodded firmly. Whatever you need. I'll do whatever it takes. Later that morning, I brought Emma to meet Rebecca. My wife was having one of her better days, more alert and able to sit up in bed. When Emma walked into the room, both women just stared at each other in amazement. "It's like looking in a mirror," Rebecca whispered. Emma approached the bed slowly, tears streaming down her face. "Hi, Isabella. I'm Emma. I'm your big sister." "My name is Rebecca now," she said softly, "but I've always loved Isabella. It felt like it belonged to someone important." "It belongs to you," Emma said, taking Rebecca's hand. "It always has." They talked for hours that day. Emma told Rebecca about their mother, Carmen Rodriguez, who was driving down from Aurora to meet the daughter she'd given away 32 years ago. She talked about their sister Maria, who had died too young, and about Emma's own family, her husband David and their 3 children, ages 8, 10, and 12. "You're going to be Aunt Rebecca," Emma said with a laugh. "The kids are so excited to meet you. They can't believe they have a new aunt." Rebecca squeezed Emma's hand. "I can't believe I have a whole family I never knew about. And that you're willing to help me like this." "That's what sisters do," Emma said simply. "We take care of each other." The transplant was scheduled for the following Thursday. In the days leading up to it, Rebecca's hospital room became a gathering place for the Rodriguez family. Carmen Rodriguez, now 65 with silver-streaked hair and Rebecca's same green eyes, sat by her daughter's bedside for hours, making up for 32 years of lost time. "I held you for 3 hours after you were born," Carmen told Rebecca, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. "I memorized every little detail, your tiny fingers, the way you made these soft little sounds, that beautiful birthmark on your shoulder. I prayed every day that you were happy, that you were loved." "I was," Rebecca assured her. "The Chens were wonderful parents. They told me I was chosen, that I was special. But there was always this feeling that part of me was missing. Now I know what it was." Emma's children, Miguel, Sofia, and little Carlos, visited every day after school. They were fascinated by their new aunt who looked so much like their mother, and Rebecca delighted in their stories about soccer games and school projects. For the first time in months, I saw her truly smile. "She's getting stronger just from having family around," Dr. Martinez observed during one of his visits. "Sometimes emotional healing is just as important as medical treatment." The night before the transplant, Emma and Rebecca sat together while Carmen, David, and I gave them privacy. Through the glass door, I could see them talking intensely, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying. "What are they talking about?" David asked, settling into a chair beside me in the waiting area. "Probably everything," I said. 32 years worth of everything." When Emma emerged hours later, her eyes were red but peaceful. "She's ready," she said simply. "We both are." The transplant itself was surprisingly routine from a medical standpoint. Emma was taken to one room where doctors extracted her bone marrow stem cells, while Rebecca was prepared in another room to receive them. I moved between both rooms, holding hands, offering encouragement, and marveling at the strength of these 2 women. "Tell Rebecca I'm thinking about her," Emma said groggily as the anesthesia took effect. "Tell Emma I love her," Rebecca whispered as the new cells began flowing into her 4-line. The actual infusion took less than an hour. Dr. Martinez explained that Emma's stem cells would now travel through Rebecca's bloodstream to her bone marrow, where they would hopefully take root and begin producing healthy blood cells. "Now we wait," he said. "The next few weeks will tell us if her body accepts the transplant. But given the perfect match between sisters, I'm very optimistic." That evening, both women were awake and feeling well enough to share a room. Carmen had brought homemade tamales from Aurora, and the nurses looked the other way as our impromptu family dinner filled room 314 with the scents and sounds of celebration. 6 months ago, I thought I was completely alone in the world, Rebecca said, looking around at all the faces surrounding her bed. Now I have more family than I know what to do with. You're never going to be alone again, Emma promised, squeezing her sister's hand. Never. 3 months later, Rebecca's test results came back with the news we'd all been praying for. The transplant had been completely successful. Her bone marrow was producing healthy blood cells, her energy was returning, and her color had improved dramatically. We were finally able to bring her home to our little house in Rogers Park. The place felt different now, brighter somehow, filled with flowers and cards from Rebecca's new extended family. Emma had painted a welcome home banner with help from her children, and Carmen had already started planning a proper family reunion for when Rebecca was stronger. I want to meet everyone, Rebecca said as we sat on our porch that first evening home, wrapped in blankets and watching the sunset over Lake Michigan. Every cousin, every aunt and uncle, everyone I missed knowing all these years. There's plenty of time for that now, I said, kissing her temple. We have all the time in the world. Rebecca had returned to teaching part-time at Riverside Elementary, where her students welcomed her back with a classroom full of get-well cards and a cake shaped like a dinosaur. We missed you, Mrs. Elena, little Tommy Rodriguez said, no relation to Rebecca's newfound family, despite the name, but we're glad you're not sick anymore. Emma drove down from Rockford every weekend, often bringing the children who had quickly become Rebecca's devoted niece and nephews. Carmen had moved in with Emma temporarily, so she could spend more time with the daughter she'd found again. One Saturday afternoon in early spring, we held a barbecue in our backyard. The entire Rodriguez family was there, Emma and David, Carmen, the kids, plus aunts and uncles and cousins Rebecca was still getting to know. The yard was full of laughter and the smell of David's famous grilled chicken. Elena, Rebecca said, pulling me aside as the sun began to set, I need to tell you something. My heart jumped. Are you feeling okay? Are you? I'm pregnant, she said softly, her eyes shining with tears of joy. I stared at her, speechless. We'd given up hope of having children years ago. Dr. Martinez says it's not uncommon, she continued. Sometimes after a successful transplant, the body heals in ways we don't expect. The stress hormones that were preventing conception are gone, and with Emma's strong, healthy cells. She laughed through her tears. We're going to have a baby, Elena. Our miracle baby. I pulled her into my arms, overwhelmed with gratitude for everything that had led us to this moment. The diagnosis that had nearly destroyed us had also brought us Rebecca's family, and now it was giving us the child we dreamed of for so long. Have you told Emma? I asked. Not yet. I wanted to tell you first. When we shared the news with the family, the celebration was immediate and joyous. Carmen cried and immediately started planning to knit baby blankets. Emma hugged us both and whispered, this baby is going to be so loved by so many people. As I looked around at our expanded family, I realized that sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the most beautiful outcomes. Rebecca's illness had nearly taken her from me, but it had also given us everything we never knew we needed. Our story had begun with a goodbye that I thought would be forever. It ended with hellos that would last a lifetime.